Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News on India's Voice to the World. I'm Prasar Bharati. Coming up in the next hour. Transfer of power in Syria as rebel meets outgoing Prime Minister. European countries suspend Syrian asylum decisions. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to testify for the first time in corruption trial. Mass anti-government protests continue to shake Georgia as thousands rally in capital Tbilisi for 12th consecutive day. Google unveils new quantum computing chip, claims it will solve a computing problem in 5 minutes that would take world's fastest supercomputer 10 septillion years. And in sports, defending champion India secure a dominant 5-0 win over Malaysia in their second match of the Women's Junior Asia Cup 2024. Updates from Syria first. Rebel leader Abu Muhammad al-Julani began discussions on Monday on transferring power. Julani met with Prime Minister Muhammad al-Jalali on Monday to coordinate a transfer of power that guarantees the provision of services to Syria's people. Jalali later said he has agreed to hand over power to the Syrian Salvation Government, while opposition leader Mohammed al-Bashir has been tasked with forming a new Syrian government. Syria's parliament meanwhile said it supports the will of the people to build a new Syria towards a better future governed by law and justice. The Ba'ath party also said that it will support a transitional phase in Syria aimed at defending the unity of the country. Thousands of prisoners spilled out of President Bashar al-Assad's detention system after he was toppled on Sunday. Crowds descended outside the prison on the outskirts of Damascus, desperate to learn the fate of friends and relatives detained at a place that symbolized terror and death under regime of President Bashar al-Assad. Rumors spread on Sunday that thousands more inmates were still imprisoned in underground cells that could not be reached. But by Monday afternoon, there was no sign of more prisoners. Many European nations, including Germany, France, Austria and several other Nordic countries, said on Monday they would freeze all pending asylum requests from Syrians. Far-right politicians elsewhere made similar demands, including in Germany, home to Europe's largest Syrian community, at a time when immigration has become a hot-button issue across the continent. Germany's Federal Office for Migration and Refugees had imposed a freeze on decisions for ongoing asylum procedures until the situation is clearer. The French Interior Ministry said it too would put asylum requests from Syrians on hold. Austria also instructed its Interior Ministry to suspend all ongoing Syrian asylum applications and to review all asylum grants. Denmark, Sweden and Norway also said Monday they were suspending the examination of asylum applications from Syrian refugees. Turkey President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has announced the reopening of a border crossing to allow Syrian refugees to return home. Erdogan, after a cabinet meeting, said that Turkey is ready to support the Syrian people in the process of rebuilding the country and will open the border gate at Yela Dagi to allow Syrians to return home safely. The Yela Dagi crossing close to the northwest edge of Syria has been closed since 2013 due to fighting near the border. Turkey, the NATO member, hosts some 3 million Syrian migrants and refugees, making it the biggest host of Syrians who have fled the civil war. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Israel was taking measures to head off any threat that could emerge in the fallout of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's overthrow.
אנחנו נוקטים בכל הפעולות We are taking all the actions necessary to try to ensure our security with regard to the new situation created in Syria. And the State of Israel is establishing its position as a center of power in our region as it has not been for the decades. Those who cooperate with us benefit greatly. Those who attack us lose big. We want to see a different Syria both for our benefit and for the benefit of the people of Syria.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken warned that Islamic State will try to use this period to re-establish capabilities in Syria, but said the United States is determined not to let that happen.
The end of this regime is a defeat for all who enabled its barbarity and its corruption, none more than Iran, Hezbollah, and Russia. So this moment presents a historic opportunity, but it also carries considerable risks. History shows how quickly moments of promise can descend into conflict and violence. ISIS will try to use this period to reestablish its capabilities, to create safe havens. As our precision strikes over the weekend demonstrate, we are determined not to let that happen.
Members of the UN Security Council on Monday discussed the fluid situation in Syria after President Bashar al-Assad's fall, opting to stand by and await further developments. After the meeting, the US and Russian diplomats said the UNSC members will work on a statement on Syria in the coming days. Meanwhile, the United Nations on Monday said it wanted the best possible future for the Syrian people.
We want to see the best possible future for the Syrian people, one that they choose themselves, one that is inclusive, one that is fully respective of the rights of minorities. So I think, I mean, as we know and as you know, the situation is moving very quickly. I think things will be hopefully clearer in the coming days.
Ousted Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is not the first autocratic leader to have been forced to flee his country. There have been other leaders in recent past who had to flee their respective countries while in power due to political turmoil.
Tunisia, Zine El Abidine Ben Ali. After weeks of protest sparked in December 2010, Ali fled on January 14, 2011 for Saudi Arabia, ending 23 years in power. Ben Ali died in exile in Saudi Arabia in 2019. Zaire, now Democratic Republic of Congo, Mobutu Sese Seko. On May 16, 1997, Seko went into exile after receiving an ultimatum to step down. Mobutu had smothered all opposition and wrecked the economy. He died shortly afterwards on September 7, 1997, in Morocco of prostate cancer. Haiti. Jean-Claude Duvalier. Duvalier proclaimed himself president for life, installing a regime of terror. He went into exile in February 1986 following a popular uprising over the human rights abuses. He lived in France for 25 years, returning to Haiti in 2011, where he died 3 years later. Philippines. Ferdinand Marcos. Marcos in 1986 fled to US exile amid a bloodless, military-backed popular uprising that ended his 20 years in power. He died in exile in 1989. Uganda, Idi Amin Dada. Amin seized power in Uganda in 1971. He brutally suppressed all opposition during his 8-year reign of terror, resulted in the deaths of an estimated 300,000 people. Overthrown in a 1979 coup, he died in exile in Saudi Arabia in 2003. Iran, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. He acceded to the throne in 1941, was accused of authoritarianism. He was criticized for his modernist reforms. He fled in 1979 after months of protests. He lived in exile in Morocco, Bahamas, Mexico, US, and Panama, dying in Egypt in 1980.
Islamist rebel group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham (HTS) had been administering parts of neighboring Idlib province before it launched on November 27 a lightning offensive alongside allied groups, seizing control of government-held territory. They took Aleppo city just days later and on Sunday reached Damascus, toppling longtime President Bashar al-Assad more than 13 years after an uprising against his rule erupted and descended into war. But Syria remains a country geographically divided amongst various warring groups, and various parts are controlled by sectarian militia. HTS now controls the majority of the Eastern Front, with major cities including Aleppo and Damascus under its control. The Kurdish groups control parts of the northern territories bordering Iraq, while pro-Turkey groups are also clinging onto their sphere of influence. A large part of the nation is in a state of flux as the Assad regime has fallen apart, and no one knows the fate of central and southwestern parts, as no one seems to be in control in these parts. Syrians have been enduring the horrors of a civil war for the past 13 years. The neighboring nations have provided shelter of Syrian refugees, but the situation back home seems to be imploding further. The current state of affairs doesn't seem that the ordeal will be over soon. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer visited Saudi Arabia on Monday, seeking stronger economic and defense ties with the country and the United Arab Emirates. During the multi-day visit to the Gulf, his first trip to the region since taking office, he met with the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at the Royal Court in Riyadh. Starmer has pledged to step up the country's engagement in the Middle East to support long-term stability. Starmer has also agreed to bolster the existing defense partnership between Britain and Saudi Arabia and promote greater defense industrial cooperation. On the fall of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, Starmer said the focus now was on talking to regional and global allies about the way forward and rejecting terrorism. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is all set to witness stand on Tuesday for the first time in his trial on corruption allegations. Netanyahu is facing charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust in 3 separate criminal affairs. In 2019, Netanyahu was indicted with all these charges, but he denied all the charges and pleaded not guilty. At this point of time, the trial will take up a chunk of Netanyahu's time at a crucial point for Israel when there is multiple threat from the wider West Asia. On the other hand, Israeli Prime Minister has announced that his military has temporarily seized control of a demilitarized buffer zone in the Golan Heights. In the press briefing, Prime Minister said that his control of the Golan Heights guarantees security and sovereignty of Israel.
Today, everyone understands the great importance of our being there on the Golan and not at the foot of Golan. Our control of the Golan Heights guarantees our security and sovereignty.
Meanwhile, on Monday, Israel told the United Nations Security Council that it has taken limited and temporary measures in a demilitarized strip bordering Syria to counter any threats, particularly in Golan Heights. Israel's UN Ambassador Danny Danon also said that Israel remained committed to the framework of a 1974 separation of forces agreement. In Georgia, protests following the government's controversial decision to delay the former Soviet country's bid to join the European Union entered 12th day today. On Monday, EU ambassador to Georgia termed the police brutality against demonstrators as unacceptable and said this presents European Union to impose sanctions. He said Brussels could present a sanctions package on December 16. The decision outraged many in South Caucasus country, where the idea of EU accession is popular. Over 100 serving Georgian diplomats signed an open letter criticizing the government's move, and several Georgian ambassadors resigned their posts. Scores of demonstrators and dozens of police officers have been injured, and at least 300 people have been arrested since November 28. Meanwhile, Britain has said that it will limit engagement with the Georgian government and restrict defense cooperation. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said this on Monday in a statement condemning violence against protesters and journalists there. Lammy termed the scenes of police clashing violently with pro-EU protesters shocking, saying they were unacceptable and called for them to stop. Lammy further added that the UK government would limit engagement with representatives of Georgian Dream government until there is a halt to this move away from European democratic norms and freedoms. A day after Donald Trump claimed that Kyiv is ready to make a deal with Moscow to stop the conflict, Ukrainian president is now focusing on developing a joint position that would hold strong both in negotiations and on the battlefield. On Monday, Zelensky made the case for a diplomatic settlement, saying such a resolution would save more lives. He also floated the idea of foreign troops being deployed to Ukraine until the country joins the NATO military alliance. Further, Ukraine also said it was preparing a December meeting of key European partners who, together with the US, were capable of ensuring the maximum strengthening of the state. Kiev, which has made a concerted push to obtain an invitation to join NATO, has insisted throughout the conflict that it needs security guarantees to prevent Russia launching another invasion once the current hostilities are halted. Apart from the international pressure, Zelensky is also trying to strengthen its position in the conflict. On Monday, he issued orders to increase funding for equipping the country's brigades with new drones, for which he has instructed the Prime Minister to increase financing for brigades in the coming days to increase several times over. Zelensky is increasingly focused on the deployment of drones in the conflict, with a contract already in place to produce 1.5 million drones this year, and was capable of ramping up production to 4 million annually. And still to come on DD Indian News Hour. Ghana's former president Mahama wins election, vows to reset nation. Man suspected of killing United Health executive Brian Thompson finally arrested. Christmas is almost here. Stay with us to see how people are gearing up to welcome Santa Claus.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD Indian News On. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. Taiwan has raised its alert level on Monday, saying China had reserved airspace and deployed naval and coast guard vessels in the region. Senior Taiwan security officials said China had nearly 90 navy and coast guard ships near Taiwan, while 47 military aircraft were detected operating around the island over the past 24 hours. China is expected to launch another round of exercises in response to Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te's trip to the Pacific, which included stopovers in Hawaii and the US territory of Guam. Beijing has set up 7 temporary reserved areas of airspace until Wednesday to the east of its eastern Fujian and Zhejiang provinces. Such zones are allocated for a particular user during the set period, though other flights can pass through with permission under international rules. Meanwhile, the US State Department said it was closely monitoring the Chinese military activity near Taiwan. It added that a routine transit by President Lai should not be used as a pretext for military pressure. South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol has been banned from leaving the country over a failed attempt at imposing martial law amid growing calls for him to step down and a deepening leadership crisis. Yoon has apologized for the botched attempt and said he was leaving his political and legal fate to his ruling People Power Party, but has not resigned. He has become a subject of criminal investigation. While Yoon survived an impeachment vote in Parliament on Saturday, his party's decision to delegate presidential authority to Prime Minister has plunged the key US ally into a constitutional crisis. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's government survived its third no-confidence vote in as many months on Monday, initiated by his main Tory rival. The minority Liberal government, with support from the New Democratic Party, defeated the no-confidence motion by 180 to 152. The motion echoed NDP leader Jagmeet Singh's past criticism of Trudeau, labelling him weak and selfish. Though neither leader attended the vote, the House of Commons has faced a historic 2-month filibuster by the Conservatives, causing a prolonged deadlock this fall session. But Speaker Greg Fergus temporarily paused the Conservative-led deadlock to enable confidence votes and a key spending measure set for Tuesday. The Liberals currently have 153 seats versus 119 for the Conservative, 33 for the Bloc Québécois and the NDP's 25. Trudeau swept to power in 2015 and has managed to hold on through 2019 and 2021 elections. Ghana's Electoral Commission declared ex-president and main opposition leader John Dramani Mahama winner of Saturday's presidential election with 56.55% of vote.
Perpetrators to these and all other human rights abuses and violations are brought to justice. The Secretary General reiterates once again his pressing call to member states to provide the multinational security support mission the financial and the logistical support required to successfully assist the Haitian National Police in addressing gang violence.
In the United States, more than 75 Nobel Prize winners have sent an open letter to the U.S. Senate opposing the nomination of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for Secretary of Health and Human Services. President-elect Donald Trump picked Robert F. Kennedy Jr. for the post, but Nobel laureates were citing his lack of credentials and anti-vaccine beliefs. The laureates questioned whether Kennedy is fit to lead the department responsible for protecting public health and funding biomedical research. Kennedy, whose nephew of assassinated U.S. President John F. Kennedy Jr. made his own White House run earlier this year before throwing support to Trump. In return, Trump has tapped him to oversee the executive branch in charge of health and medicine. Authorities in U.S. have arrested the man suspected of killing United Health executive Brian Thompson in a brazen shooting outside a Manhattan hotel last week. After a massive 5-day manhunt, the suspect, identified as Luigi Mangione, was captured in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after he was spotted eating at McDonald's. Mangione, a Maryland native, had multiple fraudulent identifications, including a fake New Jersey ID that matched the one used by the gunman to check into a Manhattan hostel days before the shooting. Australia on Monday launched an anti-Semitism task force following an arson attack at a synagogue in Melbourne, which police say was likely terrorism. On Tuesday, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese visited the incident site, where he said the attacks on the Jewish community were concerning. He added that rising anti-Semitism is a major threat. Meanwhile, police has also stepped up patrols of Jewish areas in Melbourne in order to reassure the community there. In the third anti-Semitic attack in Australia this year, some people deliberately started a fire at Melbourne synagogue that injured one and caused widespread damage. A Nevada commissioner has rejected Rupert Murdoch's bid to change his family trust to consolidate control of his media empire in the hands of his son, Lachlan. Nevada commissioner concluded in his decision that Murdoch and his eldest son, Lachlan, who is the head of Fox News parent Fox Corp, Foxa.o and News Corp and WSA.o, had acted in bad faith in their effort to amend the irrevocable trust. The trust currently would divide control of company equally among Rupert Murdoch's 4 oldest children, Lachlan, James, Elizabeth and Prudence, after his death. Potentially, 3 of the heirs could outvote a 4th, setting a battle over the future of the companies, even as Lachlan Murdoch runs Fox and is sole chair of News Corp. A lawyer for Rupert Murdoch said they were disappointed with the ruling and intended to appeal. Let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. The Charles Dickens Museum in London, where the famous author once lived, has put up their authentic Victorian-style decorations in rooms, including Dickens' old drawing room and study. The museum aims to provide visitors with a glimpse into the life of 19th century English novelist and his family. Visitors in large numbers flocked to the Sichuan Treasures Pavilion at Ocean Park in Hong Kong to catch the glimpse of 2 beloved giant panda pair gifted by the China to Hong Kong. Many giant panda fans from outside countries travelled to Hong Kong on the day of the panda's debut to catch the glimpse of the pair. As the countdown to the Lunar New Year 2025 draws closer, farmers in Vietnam are diligently working to ensure that the market is filled with vibrant flowers, lush greenery and fresh produce. The rush to prepare for the festive season has intensified, with farmers working around the clock to meet the growing demands. Colorful lights and shiny decorations have begun adorning Manila, the capital region of the Philippines, with 16 interlocked cities as it gears up for the upcoming Christmas festivities. Parks, roads and buildings are embellished with Christmas lights and holiday decorations. The Philippines starts celebrating Christmas as early as September, with Christmas music playing in public spaces before festivities gradually culminate in December. Japan has also started preparing for Christmas season, as residents and visitors in Tokyo have been enjoying the festive cheer by visiting art installations and dazzling illuminations. This year's lineup showcased Nintendo's Super Mario Bros. With a 13-meter tall installation and Mario characters attracting crowds. Christmas markets in Shanghai have been drawing crowds of revelers who are looking for gifts, food and some holiday cheer ahead of Christmas. The markets were decorated with dazzling lights and colorful decorations featuring giant Christmas trees, Santas and a merry-go-round. The holiday spirit was in full swing in Taipei as pedestrians crowded decorated shopping streets with the iconic Taipei 101 skyscraper towering above. Among the festive displays, dog installers stole the show, posing for pictures as their owners captured the moments. Carousels and other rides added a magical touch, with revelers eagerly hopping on for a ride in this enchanting winter wonderland. And still to come on DD India News Hour. Human Rights Day being observed with the theme, Our Rights, Our Future, Right Now. India's Defence Minister in Russia. Stay tuned to know the details. We'll tell you the latest weather updates from India.
Geopolitics and trade deals. Economic challenges amid development. Hard work and the path to prosperity. It's the economy always. Between walkers, money is what money does and says. Supply creates its own demand. Between the bulls pulls and bears tears. When supply chains globalization and India rises to the podium. We'll get you centered with the Economic Brief at 8 p.m. every Thursday on DD India.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj, and a quick recap of headlines. Transfer of power in Syria as rebel meets outgoing Prime Minister. European countries suspend Syrian asylum decisions. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is set to testify for the first time in corruption trial. Mass anti-government protests continue to shake Georgia as thousands rally in capital Tbilisi for 12th consecutive day. Google unveils new quantum computing chip, claims it will solve a computing problem in 5 minutes that would take world's fastest supercomputer 10 septillion years. And in sports, defending champion India secure a dominant 5-0 win over Malaysia in their second match of the Women's Junior Asia Cup 2024. Dhaka and New Delhi expressed commitment to advance bilateral relationship for mutual benefit in their first high-level official talks held since Bangladesh's political changeover. Bangladesh and India attends a one-day foreign office consultation. And Dhaka seeks India's cooperation in stopping misleading campaigns. Dhaka expects resolution of all unsettled issues with India. Bangladesh's closest neighbor, relation with India is historic. Both sides agree to carry relation in a free and frank discussion. Bangladesh seeks regular ties with India. All right, and DD India correspondent Naval Singh Parmar joins us on the phone line from Dhaka. Hi, Naval Singh. A very good morning to you. India has increased diplomatic pressure on Dhaka over the issue of atrocities, against minorities in Bangladesh. Tell us a little more.
After the arrest of Chinmay Krishna Das and some sporadic incidents of violence against the minority, India raised concern in last fortnight about the safety and security of minorities in Bangladesh. And during the foreign secretary's visit, it happened at very crucial juncture of bilateral relation between India and Bangladesh. So, in his press statement, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said they raised the concern regarding the safety and security of minorities here in Bangladesh, as well as other issues related to diplomatic, historical, and religious sites where some sorts of vandalism happened here in Bangladesh. And at the same time, he mentioned that both the country agreed to extend or carry forward the mutually beneficial cooperation between the two countries for the benefit of the people of either side of the border.
All right, we leave it there. Thank you so much. And India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, who is in Russia, will co-chair the 25th meeting of India-Russia Intergovernmental Commission on Military and Military Technical Cooperation in Moscow. The minister, along with his Russian counterpart, will review the entire range of multifaceted relations between the two countries in the field of defence, including military to military and industrial cooperation. They will also exchange views on contemporary regional and global issues of mutual interest. Earlier on Monday, as part of his 3-day visit, Defence Minister witnessed the commissioning of the Indian Navy's latest multi-role stealth-guided missile frigate INS Tushil at Yantra Shipyard, Kaliningrad. Chief of Naval Staff Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi also accompanied Rajnath Singh for the commissioning ceremony. With the aim of deepening political and people-to-people ties, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar visited Bahrain and co-chaired 4th India-Bahrain High Joint Commission meeting with his Bahrain counterpart. Both the leaders appreciated the role of Indian community in the Gulf nation as a vital link between the two countries and underscored the importance of mutual cooperation in various fields, including healthcare, tourism and education. Later in the day, External Affairs Minister Jaishankar met Deputy Prime Minister of Bahrain, Sheikh Khalid bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, and thanked his government for ensuring the welfare of Indian community. During his visit, the minister also interacted with members of the Indian community in Bahrain. He thanked diaspora for their contributions in deepening India-Bahrain friendship. He also highlighted the growing ties between the two countries and reaffirmed pledge to combat terrorism.
As a country that itself has been impacted so deeply by terrorism, we are very strongly opposed to terrorism and hostage taking. They should never be excused or condoned. But at the same time, it is very important that any action which is taken by any government or any armed force must always take care of civilian casualties, how to minimize civilian casualties, must always be respectful of humanitarian law, should cater for relief and looking after people who are affected in any operation.
Human Rights Day is being observed across the globe today. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration of Human Rights on December 10 in 1948. The theme for this year is Our Rights, Our Future, Right Now. The theme emphasizes that human rights are not just aspirational, but also a practical tool for empowering individuals and communities to create a better future. President of India, Draupadi Murmu, will address a program organized by the National Human Rights Commission in New Delhi to mark the occasion. The celebration will be followed by a day-long national conference on mental well-being, navigating stress from classroom to workplace. The daily proceedings of the winter session of Indian Parliament to resume today, with the upper house or Rajya Sabha of the Parliament to take up Banking Laws Amendment Bill 2024 for consideration and passing. While Merchant Shipping Bill 2024 will be introduced in the lower house, Railways Amendment Bill 2024 and Disaster Management Amendment Bill 2024 will be taken for consideration and passing. Weather updates from across India, and India is set to witness diverse weather conditions in the coming days as the India Meteorological Department predicts rain, snowfall, dense fog and a drop in temperatures across different regions. According to reports, temperatures are likely to drop sharply to as low as 6 degrees Celsius by today. Neighbouring northern states such as Punjab, Haryana and western Uttar Pradesh will also feel the chill, with cold wave expected to persist until December 14. Himachal Pradesh's capital, Shimla, experienced its first snowfall of the season on Sunday. Popular tourist destinations such as Kufri and Fagu also witnessed snowfall. Additionally, intermittent snowfall in Himachal Pradesh's Lahaul and Spiti districts intensified the cold across nearby valleys. Meanwhile, Gulmarg, a globally renowned tourist destination, has become the prime attraction for visitors from across India and abroad. And Indian correspondent Shabir Dar is joining us from Srinagar to tell us about the weather updates there. Hi Shabir, a very good morning to you. Let's begin with the weather updates where you are right now.
We just after winter, and it is intense cold wave from past few days. Last evening it was -5 degrees, and
Okay.
previous a night before last night, previous night was 3 degrees. So we can say that the minus temperatures increasing of on every passing day, and Kashmir is witnessing a harsh winter this season.
Okay.
There is a global weather effects, the La Nina effect, which characterizes the harshest winter and heavy precipitation, resulting in frequent snowfalls and rainfall in Jammu and Kashmir, which will definitely dip the temperature to deep minus degrees. So this year it is predicted that it will be sort of normal winter what Kashmir used to have in before many years, because we have seen in past many years that there was this global warming effect has actually resulted in warmer winters. But this year the La Nina effect, which is actually the warming of Pacific Ocean, and the cold waves from there will result Kashmir receiving heavy snowfall.
Definitely, Shabir, how are people reacting to this weather and how they are coping up?
Yeah, Kashmiris have traditionally been enjoying the winter, be it snow or be it the chill, and they have their own ways to beat it out, like the traditional ways of using kagris and fire pots inside homes, and the kangri, the fire pot is a movable heater, we can say. So they carry that also. But additionally, the authorities are also bracing up their making all efforts to face any eventuality, eventuality.
Okay.
The power outage issue is being taken care of by the authorities, because in winters we see Kashmir is having maximum load of power consumption. So authorities are bracing up to deal with such situations where people are given more facilities which they require in winters.
All right, Shabir, we leave it there. Thank you so much for joining in. Today is the birth anniversary of Chakravarti Raja Gopalachari, the last Governor General of India and the founder of the Swatantra Party. Rajagopalachari was born on December 10, 1878 in Thorapalli village in the Madras Presidency. His entry into public life was marked in 1917 when he became the chairperson of the municipality of Salem in 1917. A quick look at his role in India's independence movement. Rajaji's personal interaction with father of the nation Mahatma Gandhi in 1919 led him to give up his legal profession to be fully involved in the nation's independence struggle. The relationship between them only grew stronger, and Mahatma Gandhi called Rajaji the keeper of my conscience. He participated in agitations against the Rowlatt Act, the non-cooperation movement, the Vaikom Satyagraha and the civil disobedience movement. Rajaji was elected to the Constituent Assembly from Madras on a Congress party ticket. Post-independence, Rajaji served as the last Governor General of India till 1950. He briefly served as Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister between 1952 and 1954. In 1954, he was conferred with the Bharat Ratna for his contribution to Indian politics and literature. Conflicts grew deeper between Rajaji and Nehru. Rajaji formed the Swatantra Party. Swatantra Party aimed to represent centre to right political ideologies. Rajaji was a prolific writer. Popular works include retelling of the Mahabharata and Ramayana in English and Ramayana Chakravarti Thirumangan in Tamil. And still to come on DD Indian News Hour. We'll tell you what's happening in global markets. And in sports, tennis player Arina Sabalenka claims maiden WTA Player of the Year award. And we take you to the US, where New York and Washington light up for the holiday season. You're watching DD Indian News Hour. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj. And as the 6-year tenure of Reserve Bank of India's Governor Shaktikanta Das, the 25th RBI Governor, who is set to demit office today, comes to an end, he thanked everyone for their support and good wishes. In a farewell message on social media site X, he expressed gratitude for the opportunity to serve the nation and acknowledged the support he received during his term. He wrote, and I quote, "Immensely grateful to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi for giving me this opportunity to serve the country as Governor RBI and for his guidance and encouragement. Benefited a lot from his ideas and thoughts." Shaktikanta Das' departure paves the way for Sanjay Malhotra, the current Revenue Secretary, to assume the position as the 26th Governor of RBI. Air India confirmed that it placed an order to purchase 100 more Airbus aircraft comprising 10 wide-body A350 and 90 narrow-body A320 family aircraft, including A321neo on Monday. These 100 new aircraft are in addition to the firm orders of 470 aircraft that Air India had placed with Airbus and Boeing last year. With the order for 100 additional aircraft, Air India currently has a total of 344 new aircraft incoming from Airbus, having received 6 A350s so far. Air India in 2023 had also placed orders for 220 wide-body and narrow-body aircraft with Boeing, of which 185 aircraft remain to be delivered. Air India also announced that it has selected Airbus's Flight Hour Services component to support the maintenance requirements of its growing A350 fleet. Natarajan Chandrasekharan, chairman of Tata Sons and Air India, said the additional aircraft will help to position Air India on the path to greater growth and contribute to our mission of building Air India into a world-class airline. Google unveiled a new quantum computing chip, touting it as a significant breakthrough, bringing practical quantum computing closer to reality. Google Quantum AI founder Harmat Neven said Google's custom chip Willow performs tasks in minutes that would take leading supercomputers 10 septillion years. Neven's 300-member team at Google aims to develop quantum computing to tackle complex problems, including safe fusion power and combating climate change. Google CEO Sundar Pichai stated that Willow is an important step in the journey to build a useful quantum computer with practical applications in areas like drug discovery and fusion energy. Though still in its early stages, scientists believe superfast quantum computing will eventually drive innovation across various fields. First Sherpa Finance and Central Bank deputies meeting began in Johannesburg on Monday. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola officially opened the 4-day G20 Sherpas meeting, confirming Pretoria's readiness to host the G20 summit in 2025. Lamola pointed out that given the current global challenges, G20 must make strides in forging practical, mutually beneficial cooperation that champions an international order that is fairer, just, inclusive and representative. DD India correspondent Nazneen Ismail explains.
Good morning from Johannesburg, where we are present for the first Sherpas Finance and Central Banks meeting taking place from the 9th to the 12th of December. Sherpa meetings are vital for setting the framework and the tone for the G20 summit, allowing leaders to finalize decisions on critical global issues such as economic growth, climate change, international trade, and social development. The leaders of the world's largest economies of developed and developing countries will get together to finalize solutions on these challenges.
South Africa's presidency will be held under the theme Solidarity, Equality, Sustainability, a theme that seeks to harness global will and capabilities to confront the enormous challenges the world is facing. In the spirit of Ubuntu, our shared humanity, we will address these challenges through our high-level deliverables and priorities, which lie at the core of the original G20 mandate. These include strengthening disaster resilience and response, ensuring debt sustainability for low-income countries, mobilizing finance for a just energy transition, harnessing critical minerals for inclusive growth and development. As part of its efforts to bring the Sherpa and the finance tracks closer together, 3 temporary task forces initiatives and a commission will be established during South Africa's G20 presidency.
India's G20 Sherpa Amitabh Kant is also in attendance at the Sherpas meeting at Johannesburg. Nazneen Ismail spoke to the leader about the issues he's expected to raise during the meeting to put forth concerns of the Global South.
So what are some of the challenges you have faced to take forward India's priorities and objectives?
Well, there are no challenges. We are taking them vigorously forward. India's presidency was very ambitious. It was action-oriented, and it looked at making G20 G21 by including African Union as a member. And by doing that, we've made G20 far more inclusive, because we were able to, now G20 takes care of almost 8% of the global population and about 80% of the global GDP. And therefore, India's presidency was based on inclusive, balanced, sustainable, strong growth. Growth is critical. It was also based on achieving sustainable development goals by 2030. We drew up an action plan. India's presidency was aimed at making the global institutions stronger by reforming the multilateral development financial institutions. India's presidency was also based on using technology to leapfrog in a very big way, and also Green Development Pact for climate and sustainable action of the future. And finally, we focused on women-led development for the future. And those priorities are the ones that are being taken forward by both Brazil and by South Africa. We are working together with all these countries.
How do you ensure that the concerns of the Global South are addressed in the G20 discussions, given the dominance of the major global North economies?
So Global South is very critical, and India's presidency demonstrated that when Global South wields the pen, it speaks on behalf of the Global South, and that's why Prime Minister Modi also held 2 meetings, the Voice of the Global South, with all the leaders of the Global South. And our view is that this year almost 70% of the growth is going to come from emerging markets.
What are the key global priorities you believe should be on the agenda in this summit?
So I think South Africa has done well to focus on solidarity, equality and sustainability. Their focus is on new technologies, artificial intelligence. Their focus is on food security, but their focus is also on growth, industrialization. Their focus is on a range of areas which can drive global growth. G20 has a very major role to play in climate action. It must set the agenda like it did during India's presidency.
Fantastic. Sir, I thank you for your time. That was Shri Amitabh Kant, who is currently India's Sherpa for the G20 summit. And I am Nazneen for DD India, Johannesburg.
Wall Street's main indexes finished lower on Monday, fueled by a decline in AI leader Nvidia that weighed on tech stocks as investors looked ahead to a crucial inflation report set for later this week. Nvidia fell after China's market regulator launched an investigation into the chip maker over suspected violation of anti-monopoly law, dragging down the information technology sector. The S&P 500 lost 0.61%, while Nasdaq Composite lost 0.62%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.54%. You're watching DD India News. Our time now for sport. And in hockey, defending champion India overcame a slow start to secure a dominant 5-0 victory over Malaysia in their Women's Junior Asia Cup match on Monday. This marks India's 3rd consecutive win over Malaysia in the tournament's history, having previously triumphed 9-1 in 2015 and 2-1 in 2023. After a resounding 13-1 victory over Bangladesh on Sunday, India took time to find its rhythm and faced strong resistance from the Malaysian defence. However, once it scored the opening goal, India continued to build on the lead and delivered a commanding performance. India's Deepika scored a hat-trick, while Vaishnavi Falke and Kanika added a goal each. India will next face China in its 3rd match on Wednesday. Aryna Sabalenka received WTA Player of the Year award for the first time on Monday after winning 2 Grand Slam titles and finishing 2024 at number 1 in the rankings. Sabalenka won the Australian Open in January and the US Open in September, along with 2 other titles this season, going 56-14 with nearly $10 million in prize money. She overtook Iga Swiatek for the top ranking in October. In other results, Emma Navarro was honoured as Most Improved Player. Paula Badosa was named Comeback Player. Lulu Sun was Newcomer of the Year, and Sara Errani and Jasmine Paolini were picked as the Doubles Team of the Year. Let's take you to the United States, where the Rockefeller Center Christmas tree in New York and the US Capitol Christmas tree in Washington, D.C. are both lit up ahead of the holiday season. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched Waves, entering the field of OTT platform. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audiences. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Siddharth Bharadwaj from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.